In a small town, police officer Mike Walker receives a call that leads him to a life-altering choice: adopting 6 young sisters who have no one else. What begins as a leap of faith turns into a journey filled with love, resilience, and the challenge of raising a family that looks different from the rest of the town. Together, Mike and his daughters face prejudice, loss, and moments of doubt. Yet, with each challenge, they grow closer, ultimately inspiring an entire community to redefine what family truly means. But how does this unlikely family find strength in the face of hardships? And what legacy does Mike leave behind that changes lives far beyond their own? If you believe in the power of love and family, subscribe for more heartfelt stories and tell us in the comments, what would you do in Mike's shoes? Get ready to be inspired by a story of family like no other. Let's dive in. Willowbrook was a place people came to get away from the rush of the world. Trees lined the narrow streets. Old wooden fences creaked in the gentle wind, and the town hall clock struck noon with the comforting regularity of a heartbeat. For Officer Mike Walker, Willowbrook wasn't just a small town, it was a sanctuary. He had spent 20 years on the police force here, patrolling the same streets, saying hello to the same people, watching children grow up and families come together. And yet, for all the time he had given to Willowbrook, the town had given little back to him. At 45, Mike was a man whose face bore the quiet marks of life's trials. He had lost his wife, Rachel, to illness a decade ago, and they had never had children. In moments of solitude, he could almost hear her laughter in the house they had once shared, see her smile in the memories of late-night conversations that had long since faded. For years, Mike threw himself into his work, finding solace in routine, in the familiar rhythm of his duties as a police officer. He helped others, but his own life remained quietly empty. Mike's colleagues respected him, even admired him, but he was known to keep his distance. "You've got friends here, Mike," his partner Hank Carson would often say, but Mike always brushed it off with a quick nod, moving on to the next task. One cold November afternoon, just as the sun dipped below the horizon and left Willowbrook wrapped in the soft glow of twilight, a call came through on the radio. Mike adjusted the volume, listening as dispatch relayed a report of a possible abandonment case at an old, decaying house near the outskirts of town. The dispatcher's voice, though calm, carried a hint of urgency, and Mike felt a prickle of apprehension. He arrived at the house, the engine of his patrol car cutting off, leaving him in silence. The house looked forlorn, its paint chipped, windows cracked, and an eerie quiet enveloped the property. He approached cautiously, his footsteps crunching over dead leaves scattered on the porch. From inside, he could hear soft, stifled cries. Mike's heart tightened as he knocked on the door. "This is Officer Walker with Willowbrook Police. Is anyone home?" There was no response, only the muted sound of children's voices. Gently, he turned the handle and pushed open the door. Inside, in the dim, sparse living room, he saw them, 5 children, huddled together like frightened birds in a storm. Jasmine, the eldest at 12, had her arms wrapped protectively around her younger siblings. Kylie, Leah, Tiana, and baby Sophia, barely a toddler. Their wide eyes, filled with fear and uncertainty, looked up at him as he entered. Jasmine held her head high, her small hands clenched in fists, as if ready to protect her family from anyone who might try to separate them. "It's okay," Mike said gently, crouching down to their level. He spoke slowly, his voice soft, like he was trying to calm a wild animal. "I'm here to help. Can you tell me what happened?" Jasmine, her braids neatly done despite the disorder around her, met his gaze with the maturity of someone far older than her years. "Our parents, they didn't come home. It's been days." Her voice was a mix of innocence and heartbreak. As Mike listened, he felt something shift within him. He had been trained to handle emergencies, to assess situations with a professional detachment, but this was different. These weren't just children in distress. They were alone in the world. And as he watched them cling to each other, he knew, somehow, that they were clinging to him too. Back at the station, the social workers came, asking questions and filling out forms. Mike watched, feeling an unfamiliar sense of helplessness as he realized what was about to happen. The children would likely be separated, each one sent to a different foster family. The system wasn't designed to keep large sibling groups together, and Mike could see the dread in Jasmine's eyes as she overheard snippets of the conversation. The lead social worker, Diane, was sympathetic but firm. It's very difficult to place 5 children together, especially in such short notice. We'll do our best, but her voice trailed off and Mike could see the reality weighing on her. As they spoke, Mike found himself blurting out, What if I took them?" The words surprised him, but once they were out, he felt a strange certainty settle in his chest. He didn't know where it had come from, but he knew it was right. Diane's eyes widened, and she took a moment before responding. "Officer Walker, adopting 5 children is an enormous responsibility. And with you being a single man, the challenges, they're not small. Are you sure you want to do this?" Mike nodded, his face set in determination. "These kids have been through enough. If there's a way to keep them together, I'll find it." He looked over at Jasmine, who was watching him with cautious hope. "They need a home, and maybe I need a family too." Diane gave him a searching look, then nodded slowly. "If you're willing to go through the process, we'll support you. But please understand, it won't be easy." As the paperwork began, Jasmine approached him, her small, nervous fingers fidgeting. "Will you really take us?" she asked, her voice trembling. He crouched down, looking her directly in the eyes. "Yes, Jasmine. I'll do everything I can to keep you and your sisters together. We'll be a family." In that moment, Mike felt a surge of something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. For years, he had been going through the motions, drifting through life. But now, with Jasmine, Kylie, Leah, Tiana, and Sophia depending on him, he felt a new sense of purpose, a purpose that, in that instant, became his everything. It took almost 2 weeks for the adoption paperwork to go through. During that time, Mike visited the children at their temporary foster placement every day after work, bringing them small toys or snacks, trying to get to know each one in his own quiet way. The children, who were at first cautious and reserved, began to open up, their initial fear giving way to shy smiles and, eventually, laughter. On the day the adoption became official, Mike stood outside the foster home, feeling more nervous than he'd ever felt in his life. He had faced emergencies, had stared danger in the face, but this was different. He was about to bring 5 young lives into his home. 5 lives that had been shaped by loss, confusion, and uncertainty. He wondered, for the 100th time, if he was ready for this. As he knocked on the door, Jasmine answered with a wide grin, clutching a small backpack. Behind her, her younger sisters gathered, each carrying a bag or stuffed animal. Leah, who was 6, gave him a cautious smile and clung to Jasmine's arm, while little Sophia gazed at him with curiosity, her thumb tucked in her mouth. "Are you ready?" he asked them, trying to keep his voice steady. Jasmine nodded, her eyes shining. "We're ready, Mr. Mike." "Just Mike," he said, smiling. Or Dad, if you ever feel like it." He looked away, feeling the sting of tears in his eyes as he led them to the car. They didn't call him Dad that day, but he felt the weight of that possibility and the hope it brought. The drive home was quiet, with each girl clinging tightly to their belongings. Once they arrived, Mike showed them their rooms. 2 bedrooms with bunk beds he had borrowed from friends, each decorated as best as he could manage on short notice. The walls were plain, but he had bought new bedding in bright colors and set a few toys around the room, hoping to make the space feel welcoming. That first night was a whirlwind. Mike made macaroni and cheese, something he had made on a whim, hoping it would be a hit with the kids. It turned out that he had underestimated the complexity of dinner for 5 kids. Sophia accidentally spilled her cup of water all over the table. Tiana and Leah squabbled over who got the blue bowl, and Kylie insisted on eating her noodles one at a time, much to Jasmine's frustration. Later, as he tucked each of them into bed, he felt a mix of exhaustion and joy. He leaned over Leah, gently brushing her hair back from her face. She looked up at him, her small fingers clutching her blanket. "Are you staying with us?" she whispered, her eyes wide with fear that this new life might vanish as suddenly as it had arrived. He reached for her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "Yes, Leah. I'm not going anywhere. We're a family now." Leah nodded, her face softening as she snuggled deeper into her pillow. In the silence of the darkened room, he could feel her trust building, fragile but growing. The first few weeks brought a steep learning curve. Mike's life had been one of order and quiet, but his home was now filled with the sound of children's laughter, sibling squabbles, and the endless questions that came from curious young minds. In some ways, the noise was overwhelming, but he soon realized how much he had missed having a full home. The emptiness he'd felt for so long began to fade, replaced by the warmth of family. However, not everything was easy. Mike quickly learned that each child had their own unique personality and needs. Jasmine, at 12, was mature beyond her years, but she often bore the weight of responsibility, trying to keep her younger sisters in line. Kylie was lively and imaginative, always creating stories and pretending to be a superhero, but she often clashed with Leah, who was more reserved and shyer. Tiana was 4 and had a stubborn streak, often challenging Mike's patience, while little Sophia clung to him like a lifeline, refusing to let him out of her sight. On top of these challenges, there were practical struggles. Mornings became a race against the clock, with Mike struggling to braid hair, locate missing shoes, and pack lunches all before 8 a.m. His partner, Hank, who lived nearby, started to notice Mike arriving late to their shifts more often than not. "You look like you haven't slept in weeks," Hank commented one morning, chuckling as Mike stumbled into the station, hair disheveled and a crumpled shirt only half-tucked. Mike rubbed his eyes, giving Hank a weary smile. "Haven't slept in weeks? Sounds about right. Never thought getting 5 girls to school would be harder than anything I've ever done on the job." Hank laughed, slapping Mike on the shoulder. "Hang in there, Mike. You're doing something amazing. Those girls are lucky to have you." As Mike began to adjust to life as a father, the community of Willowbrook took notice. Some neighbors offered kind words, surprised but supportive of his decision. Mrs. Carter, a retired teacher who lived down the street, even stopped by one evening with a casserole and a set of gently used children's books, whispering to Mike, "Just in case you need some quiet time." But not everyone was so understanding. As Mike escorted the girls to a local church for Sunday service one morning, he noticed the glances people cast their way, some curious, some warm, but a few disapproving. Willowbrook was a small, traditional town, and the sight of a white man with 5 black daughters drew mixed reactions. It wasn't outright hostility, but he felt the weight of their gaze, the way some whispered behind their hands. Jasmine noticed too, her eyes narrowing as she caught the look from a nearby parishioner. "Are they looking at us because we don't look like you, Mr. Mike?" she asked, her voice tight with anxiety. Mike knelt down to her level, his heart aching at her question. "They're just curious," he said, giving her shoulder a gentle squeeze. "They'll get used to it, and they'll see we're a family, just like any other." The words seemed to soothe her, but he could see the question lingering in her eyes, the unspoken fear of whether they would truly be accepted. One evening, after another day filled with school runs, sibling disagreements, and the chaos of dinner time, Mike found Jasmine sitting alone on the porch, her face drawn and pensive. He joined her, sitting quietly, letting the silence stretch between them. "Do you think they'll ever stop looking at us like we don't belong?" she asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Mike thought carefully, choosing his words. "I think sometimes people need time to understand things that are new to them. But you belong here, Jasmine. You and your sisters belong here with me, no matter what anyone else thinks." Jasmine looked down, her fingers fidgeting with the edge of her sweater. "I believe you. It's just sometimes it's hard." He put his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "You don't have to go through it alone. We're in this together. You're my family, Jasmine. That means I'll always be here, no matter what." For the first time, Jasmine leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. In that moment, Mike felt a rush of warmth and love that was unlike anything he had felt before. He realized that this was what family truly meant, being there in the hardest moments, giving comfort even when there were no easy answers. As the stars began to emerge in the sky above, Mike made a silent promise to each of his daughters. They had lost so much, and the journey ahead would not be easy. But he would be there, through every struggle, every challenge, every moment of doubt. Together, they would build something strong, something unbreakable. A family. The months passed, each day bringing new surprises and small milestones. Mike learned that Kylie, his creative, energetic 8-year-old, loved drawing colorful characters on every piece of paper she could find. Her drawings covered their refrigerator, bringing vibrant color to the kitchen. Leah, however, was quieter, a natural observer who preferred to sit with her books or help with simple tasks around the house. Tiana and Sophia, the youngest, were inseparable, their laughter filling the house as they chased each other around or curled up to watch cartoons. With Jasmine's help, the morning routines became more manageable, though they were still far from easy. Jasmine took pride in being the big sister, helping her younger siblings get ready for school and even teaching Mike how to braid hair, though his first attempts left Leah's curls a bit lopsided. One evening, as they all sat around the dinner table, sharing stories from their day, Mike noticed a new warmth settling over him. He had never known what it was like to have a family, but now, each laugh, each spilled cup of milk, each small smile from his girls filled him with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt before. "Dad, can we make this dinner every Friday night?" Kylie asked, grinning as she reached for a second helping of spaghetti. "Sure thing, honey," Mike replied, his heart swelling at the word dad. It was still new, still surprising, but hearing it was a reminder that they were slowly becoming a family, in the truest sense. As the family settled into their routines, Mike noticed that his girls were beginning to experience Willowbrook differently. At school, some of their classmates were curious, while others were skeptical. Jasmine, who was in 7th grade, was especially aware of the way people stared at her and her sisters when Mike dropped them off at school. She caught the looks. Some were just surprised, others more pointed, as if questioning why a white man was raising black children. One afternoon, while shopping at the local grocery store, Mike overheard 2 women whispering near the produce aisle. "Can you believe he took in all those children?" one of them murmured, casting a sideways glance. Her friend nodded, her voice lowered but audible. "I don't know what he's thinking. Raising girls who don't look anything like him? It just doesn't seem right." Mike felt a pang of frustration mixed with sadness. He wanted to respond, to defend his family, but instead, he focused on gathering groceries, pulling Jasmine closer as they walked away. In the car, Jasmine looked up at him, her eyes filled with confusion. "Do people think it's wrong, Dad? That we're a family?" Mike's heart sank at her question. "Some people just don't understand, Jasmine. But that doesn't matter. What matters is what we know in here," he said, pressing a hand to his chest. "You're my daughters, and I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world." She nodded, her expression softening, and Mike felt a small relief. But the hurt lingered. He knew that prejudice would be something they would face for years to come. He only hoped his love and support would be enough to shield them from the worst of it. As the holidays approached, Mike wanted to make them special for his daughters. Christmas had always been a simple affair for him, just a quiet meal and maybe a movie. But he knew this year had to be different. He decided to start a new tradition, something they could look forward to each year. Together, they picked out a Christmas tree, each girl helping to decorate it with ornaments they had made or chosen at the store. Mike watched with a smile as they hung bright paper stars, glittery reindeer, and candy canes, filling the house with a sense of warmth and cheer he hadn't felt in years. On Christmas Eve, he surprised them with matching pajamas, leading to a joyful family photo session in front of the tree. The girls laughed, their faces glowing as they posed together. And for a moment, Mike forgot about the challenges they faced. They were just a family, happy and complete, wrapped up in the magic of the season. As they sat around the tree, exchanging small gifts they'd picked for each other, Jasmine handed Mike a small, handmade card. Inside, she had written in careful letters, "Thank you for being our dad. We love you." Reading the words, Mike felt a surge of emotion. He looked at his daughters, each of them smiling back at him, and realized he had finally found what he'd been searching for all these years: family. It was a sunny spring afternoon when Mike's health scare struck. He had just picked up Leah and Tiana from a friend's house and was helping them out of the car when he felt a sudden wave of dizziness. His vision blurred, and his chest tightened as he struggled to catch his breath. "Dad!" Leah's voice sounded far away as she watched him sway, her small hand gripping his arm in worry. He forced a smile, steadying himself against the car. "I'm okay, sweetheart. Just give me a minute." But he knew he wasn't okay. At the hospital, the doctors ran tests, eventually diagnosing him with high blood pressure and early signs of heart disease. As he sat in the sterile room, his mind raced with worry. The thought of leaving his daughters alone was too painful to bear, and he vowed to do whatever it took to stay healthy for them. When he returned home that evening, Jasmine greeted him with relief, her face clouded with worry. "Are you really okay, Dad?" she asked, searching his face. Mike nodded, though he felt the weight of the doctor's warning still heavy on his mind. "I'm fine, honey. Just a little scare, but I'll be more careful." Over the next few days, the girls rallied around him. Jasmine took it upon herself to remind him to take his medication each morning, while Leah helped prepare healthier meals. Kylie created a health chart for him, proudly taping it to the refrigerator, complete with reminders for exercise, vitamins, and water intake. Despite the worry, Mike felt a deep gratitude. His daughters were taking care of him, showing a love and dedication that reaffirmed their bond. He knew now that they needed each other in more ways than he had ever imagined. As the girls settled into school life, they continued to face moments of prejudice, both subtle and overt. Kylie, who was on the cheerleading squad, often overheard comments from her teammates, whispers that hinted at her being different. Sometimes it was about her hair, sometimes her family, but it all carried the same underlying message, that she didn't quite belong. One evening, after a particularly rough practice, Kylie sat at the kitchen table, struggling to hold back tears. Mike noticed and sat down beside her, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" he asked softly. She hesitated, then admitted, "They say I don't belong on the team, that I'm different." Mike's heart ached at her words. "Being different isn't a bad thing, Kylie. It's what makes you special. Don't let anyone make you feel less because of it." She nodded, wiping her tears. "Will it always be this hard, Dad?" He thought for a moment, then replied honestly, "Maybe. But you're strong, Kylie, and you've got all of us behind you. You'll always belong here, no matter what anyone else says." Kylie smiled, the sadness lifting as she leaned against him, finding comfort in his presence. As spring gave way to summer, Mike decided to take the girls on a picnic at Willowbrook Lake. He wanted to give them a day free of worries, a day to just be kids and enjoy each other's company. They packed sandwiches, chips, and fruit, along with a soccer ball and blankets. At the lake, the girls laughed and played, chasing each other through the tall grass, their voices carrying over the water. Mike watched, his heart swelling with pride and love. It was moments like these that reminded him why he had made the choice to adopt them. They were his daughters, not by blood, but by a bond that felt unbreakable. As they lay on the blankets, watching the sun sink below the horizon, Jasmine reached over, taking his hand. "Thank you, Dad, for everything." He looked at her, his eyes misting over. "No, thank you. You girls have given me more than I could ever give you." In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of his family, Mike felt the struggles they had faced melt away, leaving only love. He knew there would be more challenges ahead, but he also knew that together, they could face anything. The next Sunday, Mike decided to take the girls to Willowbrook's other church, New Horizons Community Church, which was known for its more diverse congregation. He wanted them to feel at home somewhere they wouldn't stand out quite as much. The church was warm and welcoming, filled with people from all walks of life, and Mike felt a surge of relief as they walked inside. The service was lively, with music that filled the hall and people clapping along, smiling at each other with a warmth that was contagious. Jasmine was visibly moved by the service, her face lighting up as the choir sang. Tiana clapped along, and even little Sophia tried to keep up with the beat, dancing in the aisle with a shy smile. After the service, they were approached by a kind, older woman with silver hair and a warm smile. "Well, aren't you a lovely family?" she exclaimed, her eyes twinkling. "I'm Mary Lou, and I run the church's youth program. We'd love to have you girls join us sometime." Jasmine looked up at Mike with hopeful eyes, and he nodded, feeling a sense of gratitude for Mary Lou's kindness. As they left, he realized that for the first time in a long time, they hadn't felt like outsiders. Here, they were welcomed without question, and that sense of belonging was something he knew he wanted to nurture for them. As Jasmine settled into her new routine, Mike noticed she had taken on the role of the caretaker, helping her sisters with their homework, calming their fears, and stepping in to assist Mike when he looked overwhelmed. He admired her strength, but he worried that she was taking on too much for her age. One night, after the younger girls had gone to bed, Mike found Jasmine in the kitchen, putting away dishes. He took a seat at the table, watching her for a moment before speaking. "Jasmine, you don't have to do it all by yourself." She paused, looking over her shoulder, a hint of uncertainty in her eyes. I want to help, Dad. I don't want you to feel like you have to do everything alone." He reached out, taking her hand gently. "I appreciate that, but I don't want you to feel like you have to be the grown-up all the time. You're 12, Jasmine. You deserve to just be a kid, to have fun and not worry so much." She nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "It's just, sometimes I feel like I'm supposed to take care of everyone, Like it's my job to keep us together." Mike's heart ached as he listened, seeing how much she was carrying on her young shoulders. "We're a team, Jasmine. You don't have to do it all by yourself. We'll get through this together, all of us." He pulled her into a hug, feeling her relax against him. In that moment, he realized just how much Jasmine had grown and how fiercely she loved her sisters. He knew he needed to keep reminding her that she didn't have to face life's burdens alone. When the county fair came to town, Mike decided to treat the girls to a day of fun. They piled into the car, excitement buzzing through the air as they talked about the rides, games, and food they were going to try. At the fair, they rode the Ferris wheel, ate cotton candy, and took turns trying to win prizes at the game booths. Leah, who was usually reserved, surprised them all by winning a stuffed bear at the ring toss game, her face breaking into a proud smile as she held it up for everyone to see. The day was a rare escape, a chance for them to be carefree, surrounded by laughter and joy. For a few hours, they were just another family at the fair, enjoying each other's company and making memories. Mike watched his daughters, their faces lit up with happiness, and felt his heart swell with gratitude. These were the moments he cherished most, moments that reminded him of the incredible gift of family. As the sun set, they made their way back to the car, exhausted but happy. Jasmine held her bear close, a contented smile on her face as she leaned against Mike. "Thanks, Dad," she said softly. "This was the best day." He wrapped an arm around her, feeling a deep sense of peace. "Anytime, honey. You girls deserve it." Back at school, Kylie's class was assigned a project on family heritage. Each student was asked to present on their family background and traditions. Kylie spent hours working on her presentation, excited to share stories about her family. When the day came, she proudly stood in front of her class, her voice clear and confident. "My family is special because we're all different," she began. "My dad adopted my sisters and me, and we're black and he's white. But we love each other just like any family does." When she finished, her classmates clapped, and her teacher, Mrs. Green, gave her a warm smile. But later that day, Kylie overheard some of the other kids whispering behind her back. "Why would a white guy adopt black kids?" one of them asked, his tone mocking. Another kid laughed, saying, "Maybe he just felt sorry for them." Kylie's heart sank. She had been so proud of her family, but now their words made her feel small and different. She kept quiet about it, not wanting to upset her sisters or her dad. But that night, Mike noticed something was off. As he tucked her into bed, he gently asked, "What's on your mind, Kylie?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Some kids at school, they don't understand our family. They think it's weird." Mike felt a pang of sadness, but he kept his voice steady. "Kylie, every family is unique. Some people might not understand us, but that doesn't change who we are. We're a family, no matter what anyone says. And that's something to be proud of." She nodded, giving him a small smile. "I am proud, Dad. It's just hard sometimes." "I know, sweetheart," he said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "But remember, you're surrounded by people who love you. We'll always be here for you." Kylie hugged him tightly, and he held her close, silently promising that he would protect her from as much of the world's ignorance as he could. One evening, after church, Mary Lou invited Mike and the girls to a potluck at her home. The other families welcomed them warmly, sharing food and laughter around a large table in Mary Lou's cozy kitchen. As the evening wore on, a man named Henry approached Mike. Henry, an elder at the church, was a tall man with a calm, steady presence. "You've taken on quite a responsibility, Mike," he said, his tone thoughtful. "I know it's not always easy." Mike nodded, his guard easing. "It's not, but it's worth it. I'd do anything for these girls." Henry gave a nod of understanding. "My wife and I, we raised 2 grandkids after their parents passed. I know what it's like to navigate the questions and the stares, to teach kids to be strong in the face of doubt. If you ever need advice, or just someone to talk to, we're here for you." Mike felt a wave of gratitude. "Thank you, Henry. That means a lot." From that day forward, Mike often sought out Henry's guidance, and the 2 families grew close. Henry became a mentor for Mike and a supportive figure for the girls, showing them through his actions what it meant to be strong and proud. As the first year of their new life drew to a close, Mike decided to celebrate the anniversary of the day he had officially adopted his daughters. He prepared a special dinner, complete with balloons and a cake that read, "Our family's first year." The girls were thrilled, their faces lighting up as they walked into the decorated dining room. As they sat around the table, laughing and sharing memories, Jasmine raised her glass of sparkling cider. "To Dad," she said, her voice full of emotion. "Thank you for giving us a home, for loving us. We're so lucky to have you." Mike, fighting back tears, lifted his own glass. "To all of you, you've given me more joy than I could have ever imagined. Here's to many more years together." As they clinked glasses, Mike felt an overwhelming sense of pride and love. This first year had been filled with challenges, but it had also been filled with joy, growth, and the deepening of bonds that would last a lifetime. They had faced prejudice, judgment, and the complexities of building a family from scratch, but in that moment, Mike knew without a doubt that he had made the right choice. They were a family, not defined by blood, but by love and resilience. And that love, he realized, was stronger than anything the world could throw at them. As Jasmine entered high school, the questions she had buried for years began to resurface. She was no longer a little girl, and the pressures of fitting in with her peers weighed heavily on her. Her friends at school started talking more about dating, makeup, and identity. Jasmine, who was quiet and thoughtful, often found herself feeling out of place, her mixed identity weighing on her mind. One night, after a particularly tough day at school, Jasmine approached Mike as he sat reading on the porch. She sat beside him, her expression uncertain. "Dad," she started, her voice hesitant. "Do you ever wonder what it's like to be someone else? To look different?" Mike closed his book, sensing the depth of her question. "Sometimes." "Why do you ask?" She took a deep breath. "Sometimes, I feel like I don't know where I fit in. I mean, I love you and the girls, but I don't know if people see me as a part of you." Mike reached over, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Jasmine, you're part of me in every way that matters. People may not always understand our family, but that doesn't make it any less real. You'll always belong here." She nodded, though the weight of her feelings remained. Mike knew that Jasmine's journey of self-discovery was only beginning, and that he would need to give her the space to explore it while assuring her of his unconditional support. Kylie had always been a bright spark in the family, with an endless enthusiasm for creativity. By the time she was 15, she had developed a passion for performing arts, spending hours rehearsing dance routines and practicing lines for the school's upcoming theater production. But as the date of the performance neared, Kylie overheard some of her classmates making snide comments about her. "Isn't it a bit odd for her to play the lead?" one girl whispered. "She doesn't even look like the character." The word stung, and Kylie found herself questioning if she truly belonged in the theater world. That evening, as she sat silently at the dinner table, Mike noticed her unusual quietness. "Everything okay, Kylie?" he asked gently. She hesitated, then admitted, "Some kids at school think it's weird that I got the lead. They think I don't fit." Mike's face softened. "You know, sweetheart, there will always be people who don't understand. But if you love something, you shouldn't let anyone else's opinion stop you. You earned that part because you're talented. Don't let anyone take that from you." Kylie looked up at him, her confidence slowly returning. "You're right, Dad. I do love it." On the night of the performance, Mike watched proudly from the front row as Kylie shone on stage, her spirit undimmed by anyone's expectations. Her joy was contagious, and in that moment, Mike knew she had found her calling. Leah had always been the quiet one, often retreating into her books or daydreaming when life became overwhelming. Her friends were few, but she was close with them, enjoying small gatherings over larger social events. By the time she reached ninth grade, Leah had grown into a thoughtful, introspective young woman with a gift for writing. One day, her teacher assigned a project on personal identity and family. Leah poured her heart into her essay, writing about the love and challenges of her unique family. But when she presented it in class, some students didn't know how to respond. One boy raised his hand and asked, "How does it feel to have a white dad? Is it weird?" Leah was taken aback, her cheeks reddening. She stammered, unsure how to answer, feeling both embarrassed and frustrated. That night, she shared the experience with Mike, who listened carefully, his expression serious. "Leah, sometimes people don't know how to react to things they don't understand. But that doesn't mean you owe them an explanation," he said, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Just remember, you're part of something special. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." Leah smiled, comforted by his words. That night, she decided to keep writing about her experiences, determined to turn her reflections into something positive. As the girls grew, not all their challenges came from outside the family. Tiana, who was 16 and fiercely independent, had begun pushing back against Mike's rules and expectations. She often challenged him, testing the limits of his patience, and she resented the scrutiny she felt from the community. One evening, after a disagreement about curfew, Tiana stormed out of the house, leaving Mike deeply worried. She didn't return until well past midnight, and when she finally came home, her anger had cooled, but the tension between them remained. "Why don't you trust me?" she demanded, her voice edged with frustration. "It's not about trust, Tiana," Mike replied, struggling to stay calm. "It's about keeping you safe. This world isn't always kind, and I don't want you to face it alone." She folded her arms, her gaze defiant. "Maybe you just don't get it, Dad. You're not like us. You don't understand what it's like." The words hurt, but Mike knew her anger came from a place of pain. He took a deep breath. "You're right, Tiana. I may not understand everything you go through, but I do understand that I love you. And that means I'll always be here, even when things get hard." Tiana softened, a glimmer of understanding in her eyes. The road ahead would be challenging, but Mike was determined to show her that love didn't require perfect understanding, just unwavering support. One weekend, Mike invited Hank, his longtime friend and colleague, over for dinner. Hank had always been supportive of Mike's family, but as they sat down to eat, a conversation about current events revealed Hank's more conservative views on race and society. At one point, Hank made a comment that struck a nerve with Jasmine. She looked to Mike, her face tense, as Hank continued speaking without realizing the impact of his words. Mike quickly interjected, steering the conversation away, but Jasmine's expression remained guarded for the rest of the evening. After Hank left, Jasmine approached Mike, her voice trembling with frustration. "How can you be friends with someone who doesn't understand?" Mike took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "It's hard, Jasmine. Hank's been my friend for years, but that doesn't mean I agree with everything he says. Sometimes, people we care about have views we don't share. It's part of life. But if you felt hurt, I'm sorry. That's something I won't tolerate, and I'll make sure it doesn't happen again." Jasmine nodded, though her emotions were still raw. Mike knew that moments like these were bound to come, but he hoped his daughters understood that he was always in their corner, ready to protect them. Mike's health had been a recurring concern ever since his first scare, but he had been careful, following his doctor's advice and keeping his blood pressure in check. However, late one evening, as he was helping Tiana with her college application essay, he felt a sudden wave of dizziness. His vision blurred, and he struggled to steady himself. Tiana noticed immediately, her eyes wide with fear. "Dad, are you okay?" He forced a smile, brushing it off as a momentary lapse. But the truth was undeniable. His health was deteriorating, and he could no longer ignore it. The next day, after a visit to the doctor, he received sobering news. His heart condition had worsened, and he would need to reduce his workload to manage his health. The thought of stepping back from his duties at the station was difficult, but he knew he had to prioritize his family. When he told the girls, their reactions were a mixture of concern and determination. Jasmine took on more responsibility, managing the household routines, while Kylie and Leah rallied around him, ensuring he had everything he needed. Despite the worry, Mike felt an immense pride in his daughters. They had grown into strong, capable young women, and he knew their strength was what kept him going, even in his most challenging moments. Realizing the importance of creating memories, Mike decided to start a new family tradition, an annual camping trip. They packed up their gear, driving to a nearby state park where they spent the weekend hiking, cooking over a fire, and sharing stories under the stars. As they sat around the campfire, Mike looked at each of his daughters, their faces illuminated by the glow of the flames. He saw the resilience they had developed, the strength that had carried them through countless trials. "You know," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that being your dad is the greatest gift of my life." The girls looked back at him, their eyes glistening with tears. Jasmine reached over, taking his hand, and one by one, her sisters joined in, creating a circle of hands and hearts. In that moment, surrounded by his daughters under the night sky, Mike felt a profound peace. They had faced prejudice, heartache, and his own health struggles, yet their bond remained unbreakable. They were a family, and together, they would continue to grow, united by love and resilience. Leah had always been the quietest of her sisters, observing the world around her and channeling her emotions into her writing. But as she entered her senior year of high school, she began to feel a stronger urge to express herself. She had been reading more about social justice and the history of civil rights, topics that resonated deeply with her. One afternoon, as she walked through the school hallway, she overheard a group of students mocking one of her classmates, a new student named Jaden who had recently transferred to Willowbrook. Jaden was quiet, like Leah, and had been struggling to fit in. The taunts were cruel, and Leah's heart ached for him. In a rare moment of boldness, Leah stepped forward, her voice clear. "That's enough. What you're doing isn't right." The group looked at her in surprise, their laughter fading. Leah's words had been quiet but firm, and something about her conviction made them turn away, embarrassed. Later that day, Leah found Jaden sitting alone at lunch, his shoulders slumped. She took a seat beside him, offering a warm smile. "Mind if I sit here?" Jaden looked up, surprised but grateful. "Sure. Thanks, Leah." They ate in comfortable silence, and from that day on, a quiet friendship began to grow between them. Leah realized that speaking up, even in small ways, could make a difference, and she was determined to continue standing up for herself and others. Tiana, who had always been the most outspoken of her sisters, began to feel the weight of her unique position in their family. At 17, she was grappling with her own identity and often felt torn between her loyalty to her family and her desire to understand her cultural heritage more deeply. She loved Mike, but she struggled with the feeling that no matter how much he loved her, there were parts of her experience he couldn't fully understand. One evening, after a school event, she returned home with a troubled expression. Mike, sensing her mood, gently asked, "Everything okay, Tiana?" She hesitated, then sighed. "Dad, do you ever feel like, no matter how much you love someone, there's always a part of them you just can't reach?" Mike's heart tightened at her question. He wanted to protect her from the world's harsh realities, but he knew that part of loving her was allowing her to explore and confront these feelings. "Tiana," he said softly, "I know I can't fully understand everything you go through, but I'm here always, and I'll do everything I can to support you." She nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Thanks, Dad. I think I just need to find a way to understand more about where I come from, to feel connected to something that's mine." Mike understood and gave her space to explore her identity, promising himself that he would encourage her journey, even if it meant confronting his own limitations. Jasmine had been excelling in school, her grades among the top of her class, and she was on track to graduate with honors. But as college application season approached, she found herself facing new challenges. She had her heart set on a prestigious university in the city, a place where she could study law and work toward her dream of advocating for families like hers. One afternoon, after an honors club meeting, a teacher pulled her aside, expressing doubt about her choice. "It's a very competitive school, Jasmine. Are you sure you wouldn't be happier somewhere a bit more comfortable?" Jasmine understood the implication, her stomach twisting with frustration. She knew her abilities, knew her dreams, and didn't appreciate anyone suggesting she settle for less. But instead of reacting with anger, she replied calmly, "I appreciate the advice, but I know where I belong. I'll work as hard as I need to." At home, she shared the incident with Mike, who listened with a proud but saddened expression. "Sometimes people put limits on others because they have limits on themselves," he told her. "Don't let anyone else's doubts make you doubt yourself." Jasmine smiled, her resolve hardening. She submitted her application that night, determined to prove that she was more than capable of achieving her dreams. Over time, Mike's daughters grew closer, their shared experiences of navigating identity and prejudice forging an unbreakable bond. They became each other's greatest support, talking late into the night, sharing their fears and dreams, and lifting each other up when the world felt too heavy. One night, they gathered in the living room, reminiscing about their journey as a family. Kylie, whose passion for theater had only grown, suggested an idea that lit up the room. "What if we create something together? A project that represents us?" she proposed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "We could share our story, show people what family really looks like." The other girls nodded, each one eager to contribute. Jasmine offered to handle the writing. Leah suggested they include personal reflections, and Tiana proposed creating a social media account to reach more people. Mike, overhearing their conversation, felt a surge of pride. They had turned their struggles into strength, and they were ready to share their story with the world. Inspired by the girls' enthusiasm, Mike reached out to Henry from church, sharing their vision of a community project. Henry offered his support, suggesting they partner with New Horizons Church to create a youth program focused on promoting family unity and cultural understanding. The girls threw themselves into the project, each bringing their unique talents. Kylie choreographed a dance performance, Leah curated a collection of stories and poetry, and Jasmine wrote a speech about the meaning of family that brought tears to everyone's eyes. On the day of the event, the church hall was filled with community members, friends, and family, all eager to support the girls and celebrate their achievements. As each daughter took her turn on stage, sharing her perspective and her journey, the audience was captivated, moved by the depth of their bond and the resilience they had shown. When the program ended, the crowd rose in a standing ovation, their applause echoing through the hall. Mike felt an overwhelming sense of pride, his heart full as he watched his daughters stand together, smiling with the confidence and grace of young women who had truly come into their own. Despite the positive outcome of their project, Tiana continued to grapple with her identity. Her curiosity about her heritage led her to explore African American history, reading about the struggles and triumphs of those who had come before her. But the more she learned, the more she felt the weight of her identity, torn between the love she felt for her family and the growing desire to connect with her roots. One evening, during a family dinner, she finally voiced her struggle. "Dad," she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion, "I know you love us, and I love you too. But sometimes, I feel like there's a part of me that I don't understand. A part that's missing." The room fell silent as her sisters looked on, their expressions a mix of understanding and sadness. Mike took a deep breath, reaching across the table to take her hand. "Tiana, I know it's not easy," he said gently, "and I can't change that. But I want you to know that whatever you need to do to find that part of yourself, I'll support you. I'll always be here, no matter what." Tiana's eyes filled with tears, her heart finally unburdened. She nodded, a sense of peace settling over her. It wasn't that her love for her family had diminished. It was that her journey now included a need to understand more about where she came from. And with Mike's support, she knew she could find her way without fear. In the weeks that followed, Tiana's journey towards self-discovery brought the family closer together. The girls rallied around her, each one supporting her in their own way. Jasmine helped her research family ancestry. Leah shared books she had read about heritage, and Kylie suggested they visit local museums and cultural centers to deepen their understanding. Mike, too, joined them, attending events that celebrated Black history and culture, listening intently as he learned alongside his daughters. He realized that their family's love had grown to encompass not only their shared experiences, but also their unique histories. One evening, after a visit to a cultural center, Tiana turned to him, her eyes bright with newfound confidence. "Thank you, Dad, for everything." Mike hugged her tightly, his heart full. "You've given me more than I could ever ask for, Tiana. I'm so proud of the woman you're becoming." As they neared the end of the school year, the family celebrated their many achievements together. Jasmine's college acceptance, Kylie's successful theater performance, Leah's poetry award, and Tiana's newfound confidence. They had each faced moments of doubt and struggled with identity, but together they had created a family that was strong, resilient, and unbreakable. On a warm summer evening, they gathered in the backyard for a family barbecue, laughing and sharing stories under the stars. Mike looked around, his heart swelling with pride. This was what family meant: unconditional love, acceptance, and the courage to grow together. "Here's to us," he said, raising his glass in a toast. "To the most incredible family a man could ever have." The girls raised their glasses, their faces shining with joy and gratitude. They were no longer just individuals navigating their own journeys. They were a family, bound by love and strengthened by the challenges they had overcome together. In that moment, Mike knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it as they always had, together as a family. After witnessing the positive impact of their church event, Mike and the girls were filled with a sense of purpose. Inspired by their family's story and the support they received from the community, they decided to start a foundation focused on helping foster children find supportive homes and helping adoptive families navigate cultural differences. They named it the Willowbrook Family Foundation. The idea quickly gained traction, and within weeks, donations from local businesses and community members began pouring in. Each daughter took on a specific role in the foundation, using their unique talents to build something meaningful. Jasmine handled outreach, connecting with families and advocates in the community. Kylie organized fundraising events, using her theater and arts background to make each event unique and entertaining. Aaliyah developed educational programs, creating resources to help foster children understand their backgrounds and embrace their identities. Tiana focused on community relations, speaking at schools and events to encourage open discussions about family diversity and identity. For Mike, watching his daughters work together to bring their vision to life was a profound experience. He saw how their past struggles had shaped them into compassionate, driven young women determined to make a difference. The family planned a fundraiser to launch the foundation officially, hosting a dinner and auction at the community center. As the night approached, they poured their energy into making it a success. Leah designed the invitations, Kylie directed a short video that shared their family story, and Jasmine prepared a speech to inspire support from the community. The night of the event, the hall was packed with friends, neighbors, and even people from neighboring towns who had heard of the foundation. As the lights dimmed, Kylie's video played on a large screen, showing moments from their lives, holiday dinners, family outings, and snippets from interviews with each family member. As the video ended, Jasmine took the stage, her voice steady but full of emotion. "Our family is proof that love creates bonds stronger than blood. Every child deserves a place to belong, and every family deserves the tools to thrive. We're here tonight because we believe that together we can make that possible for more children and families." The audience erupted in applause, moved by her words and the family's commitment to their cause. The auction was a success, raising more than they had ever hoped. By the end of the night, the Willowbrook Family Foundation had gained the support of the community and the resources it needed to begin its work. As the foundation's programs took shape, the family hosted monthly community workshops at New Horizons Church. The workshops provided a safe space for adoptive and foster families to discuss their challenges and seek support, bringing together a diverse group of people who shared a common goal. Mike led the discussions with a warm, steady presence, sharing his own experiences and encouraging others to do the same. Leah organized a small library of resources for families, while Jasmine set up a mentorship program, connecting teenagers with role models who could help them navigate their unique challenges. One afternoon, a young woman named Erica approached the family after a workshop. She was in the process of adopting her niece, who had recently lost her mother. "I can't thank you enough," Erica said, her voice filled with emotion. "Seeing your family gave me the strength to take on this responsibility. You showed me that love is enough." Hearing these words, Mike felt a deep sense of pride and gratitude. Their family's journey had been difficult, but seeing how it inspired others made every struggle worth it. 1 year after launching the foundation, the family gathered at their home for a celebratory dinner. It was a night to reflect on how far they had come and to honor the accomplishments of each daughter. Jasmine had been accepted into her dream university, where she planned to study family law to support children and families in need. Kylie had gained local recognition for her theater performances and was preparing for an audition at a prestigious art school. Aaliyah had published a collection of poetry about her journey of identity and family, using her voice to inspire others. Tiana had received a Community Service Award for her work with the foundation, her commitment to social justice inspiring others in Willowbrook. As they sat around the table, sharing stories and laughter, Mike raised his glass in a toast. "To my beautiful, strong, and resilient daughters, each of you has shown me what it means to be brave, to be kind, and to believe in the power of family. You are my greatest joy, and I couldn't be prouder." The girls clinked glasses, each of them filled with gratitude for the journey they had shared. They knew that while their paths might lead them in different directions, their bond would always bring them back together. As the family entered a new chapter of success, Mike's health began to deteriorate again. The symptoms he had once managed with medication and lifestyle changes grew harder to control, and after a series of tests, his doctor informed him that he would need heart surgery. The news was a shock, but Mike faced it with quiet determination. He knew his daughters were strong, and he didn't want them to worry. However, as he shared the news with them one evening, he saw the fear in their eyes. Jasmine, ever the caretaker, spoke first. "We're not letting you go through this alone, Dad. We'll be here every step of the way." Kylie reached for his hand, her voice firm. "You've always been there for us. Now it's our turn to take care of you." In the weeks leading up to the surgery, the girls took turns caring for him, organizing his appointments and preparing meals. Leah read to him during his recovery. Kylie kept his spirits high with her humor, and Tiana coordinated with the foundation to ensure everything ran smoothly in his absence. Their love and dedication gave Mike the strength he needed, and as he recovered, he realized that his daughters had truly become the compassionate, capable women he had always hoped they would be. As the years passed, each daughter pursued her dreams while staying deeply connected to the family and foundation. One summer, Jasmine announced that she was expecting her first child, a little girl who would grow up surrounded by the love and support of her extended family. Mike, now in his early 70s, felt the joy and weight of his life's journey. He had faced hardships, witnessed his daughter's struggles, and watched them grow into strong, resilient women. And now, he would have the privilege of welcoming a new generation into their family. At Jasmine's baby shower, held in the community center where they had hosted their first fundraiser, Mike felt an overwhelming sense of peace. As he held his first granddaughter in his arms, he whispered softly, "You're part of something beautiful, little one. You're surrounded by love." In the final chapter, Mike reflects on his life's journey. The Willowbrook Family Foundation had grown beyond their wildest dreams, reaching families across the state and creating programs that helped countless children and adoptive families. His daughters were thriving, each one dedicated to using her talents to make a difference in the world. On a warm autumn day, Mike and his daughters gathered for their annual family picnic, a tradition they had started years ago. Sitting on a blanket, surrounded by laughter and love, Mike looked at each of his daughters, marveling at the strength and compassion they had developed. "Girls," he began, his voice filled with emotion, "I never could have imagined this life. But I'm grateful for every moment, every challenge, and every joy. You've shown me that family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by love, by the choice to stand by each other, no matter what." As the sun set over Willowbrook, casting a warm glow over the family, Mike knew his legacy would live on. His daughters, each a testament to resilience and love, would continue to carry forward the values he had instilled in them. They were a family that had grown through love, through shared challenges and triumphs, and through the unwavering belief that every child deserves a place to belong. And in that belief, Mike found his greatest purpose. The family sat together, wrapped in the warmth of their bond, knowing that no matter where life led them, they would always find their way back to each other. In the quiet of that golden evening, Mike understood that his journey was complete, his life fulfilled. As Mike's health stabilized, he found joy in smaller, quieter moments with his family. Every Sunday, the daughters gathered with him to continue a tradition they had established early on: Sunday family dinners. Each daughter would take turns cooking or sharing a special dish, creating a tapestry of flavors and memories. One Sunday evening, as they enjoyed their meal together, Mike looked around the table, reflecting on how much his daughters had grown. They weren't just his little girls anymore. They were young women with ambitions, dreams, and a deep-rooted love for one another. "Dad," Tiana said with a soft smile, noticing his thoughtful expression, "you look like you're thinking about something." Mike chuckled, shaking his head. "Just thinking about how grateful I am to see you all here, carrying on these traditions. Someday, you'll do the same with your own families, and that's more than I ever could have hoped for." His words moved them all, filling the room with a quiet reverence. Each daughter, in her own way, had inherited a piece of Mike's strength, compassion, and unwavering dedication to family. Leah, who had always loved storytelling, had been working on a personal project, a memoir chronicling their family's journey. She titled it Bound by Love, a family story of strength and resilience. When she announced her project to the family, her sisters and Mike were taken aback, but thrilled. Leah's words held a special place in their hearts, and they trusted her to tell their story with grace and honesty. As Leah wrote, she interviewed each family member, asking them to reflect on their experiences, their challenges, and the love that had held them together. Her sister spoke candidly about the obstacles they'd faced and the dreams they'd pursued. Mike shared his hopes and fears, the moments of doubt he had overcome, and the pride he felt in each of his daughters. The book was published with the support of the community, and it quickly gained recognition as a heartfelt story of love and resilience. Through Leah's words, the family's journey touched readers far beyond Willowbrook, inspiring people to embrace family in all its forms and to build bonds based on love and understanding. The book launch was a joyful occasion, held in the same community center where they had once launched the Willowbrook Family Foundation. People from all over town attended, eager to hear Leah read from the book and to celebrate the family that had brought so much warmth and unity to their community. As Leah read an excerpt aloud, her voice steady and full of emotion, Mike watched with pride. Their story had found a voice, a way to inspire others to create their own bonds, and he couldn't have been prouder. The Willowbrook Family Foundation had grown significantly over the years, becoming a well-known advocate for foster care and adoptive families. One day, Jasmine came to Mike with an idea: to open a dedicated community center where children in foster care and adoptive families could receive support, mentorship, and resources. The center, Jasmine explained, would offer after-school programs, counseling services, and workshops designed to strengthen families. It would be a place where children could feel safe, understood, and supported, something she had often wished for growing up. The family rallied behind the idea, and together, they embarked on a mission to raise funds and secure the location for the community center. Kylie organized a benefit concert, Leah hosted poetry readings, and Tiana coordinated a sports event to engage local families. When the center finally opened, named Walker's Haven, in honor of Mike. The community celebrated the family's commitment to helping others. It was a proud moment for Mike, who knew that the center would serve as a beacon of hope and love for years to come. As he cut the ribbon at the grand opening, Mike spoke to the crowd, his voice filled with emotion. This center isn't just a building. It's a promise that every child deserves to feel safe, loved, and supported, and that family is something we can build together. Thank you for helping us make this dream a reality. The applause was overwhelming, and as his daughters gathered around him, Mike felt that his life had come full circle. They had built something lasting, something that would impact lives far beyond their own. Years passed, and the family's bond grew deeper as they each embarked on their own paths. Leah published more books, each one exploring themes of family, resilience, and love. Jasmine became a respected lawyer, advocating for children and families in the foster care system. Kylie's career in theater took off, and she began directing community plays that celebrated diverse stories and voices. Tiana continued her activism, working to improve the foster care system across the state. As Mike's health began to decline with age, his daughters remained by his side, ensuring he was cared for and surrounded by love. They honored his legacy by continuing their work with the Willowbrook Family Foundation and Walker's Haven, keeping alive the vision he had helped them create. One autumn evening, as they gathered at his bedside, Mike looked at each of his daughters, his heart full of peace and gratitude. "Girls," he said softly, his voice weak but steady, "I want you to know that I've lived the most beautiful life because of each of you. You gave me purpose, joy, and the deepest love a man could ask for. I couldn't be prouder of who you've become." They held his hands, each one expressing her gratitude, her love, and her promise to carry forward his values. Together, they sat in quiet reflection, comforted by the memories they had created and the legacy they would continue. When Mike passed peacefully that evening, his daughters were by his side, their hands clasped together as they honored his life. They held a celebration of life at Walker's Haven, inviting friends, family, and community members to share stories and memories of Mike's kindness, strength, and unwavering dedication to his family. The event was filled with laughter, tears, and love, as people spoke of the countless ways Mike had touched their lives. His daughters shared stories of their early days together, reflecting on the warmth, humor, and strength he had given them. In his honor, the family decided to establish the Mike Walker Memorial Scholarship, providing funds to support foster youth who wanted to pursue higher education. It was a fitting tribute, a way to continue Mike's mission of empowering young people and ensuring they had the resources to build fulfilling lives. As the sun set over Willowbrook, casting a warm glow on the gathered crowd, Jasmine addressed everyone one last time. "My dad taught us that family is a choice, a commitment to love and support each other. He showed us that we can create something beautiful from the simplest acts of kindness. Thank you all for being part of his life and his legacy." The crowd applauded, their hearts full, knowing that Mike's spirit would live on through his daughters, the foundation, and the countless lives he had impacted. In the months following Mike's passing, the sisters found strength in each other, carrying on his legacy through their work, their community, and their commitment to each other. They continued to meet every Sunday for dinner, sharing stories and memories of their father, honoring his life with laughter and love. As they grew older, each sister began to share Mike's values with the next generation, teaching their own children about kindness, resilience, and the importance of family. They passed down the traditions he had created, ensuring that his legacy of love and family would endure. One evening, they gathered for a family picnic at the same spot where they had spent countless summers as children. Leah brought her latest book, a collection of stories inspired by their father's life, and read a passage aloud as the sun dipped below the horizon. "He taught us that love is stronger than any obstacle, that family is built on loyalty, sacrifice, and unwavering support," she read, her voice filled with emotion. "He showed us that family is not just something we're born into, it's something we choose every single day." The sisters sat in silence, looking out over the lake, each one feeling the presence of their father in the gentle rustle of the trees, the warmth of the sunset, and the enduring bond that connected them. As they packed up to leave, they knew that Mike's love would remain with them, a constant source of strength and inspiration. They were a family, bound not by blood, but by a choice that had defined their lives. And in that choice, they found a love that would carry them forward, generation after generation. Their story, Mike's story, had become a testament to the power of family, love, and resilience, a legacy that would touch lives for years to come. As we reflect on Mike's incredible journey and the powerful legacy he built through love, resilience, and family, we hope this story has touched your heart. Mike's story reminds us that family is a choice, built on moments of courage, compassion, and unwavering support. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more tales of family, strength, and hope, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll never miss an inspiring story that celebrates the power of love, the beauty of resilience, and the incredible bonds that bring us together. Thank you for watching, and remember that every act of kindness has the power to change lives. As we reflect on Mike's incredible journey and the powerful legacy he built through love, resilience, and family, we hope this story has touched your heart. Mike's story reminds us that family is a choice, built on moments of courage, compassion, and unwavering support. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more tales of family, strength, and hope, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll never miss an inspiring story that celebrates the power of love, the beauty of resilience, and the incredible bonds that bring us together. Thank you for watching, and remember that every act of kindness has the power to change lives.